Welcome to the Trailbreaker Podcast. I'm Aaron Feinberg. In this podcast, I explore what it takes to be a trailbreaker. Through intimate conversations with people carving new paths across the landscape of business, art, and sport, we dig in on how to excel across seemingly disparate endeavors. What drives people who manage to succeed multidimensionally? Is it how they think? Is it meticulous planning and follow-through? Or is it some measure of delusional optimism? My guest today is Thomas Scaria, co-founder of Prism, a group ownership platform using crypto technology, allowing the 99% to pool their capital in order to buy blue chip assets anywhere in the world. We talked about what inspired Thomas to originally jump into the crypto space, how Prism is leveling the financial playing field, and what DOWs and NFTs are. Good afternoon, Thomas, and thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Hey, Aaron. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
You and your company Prism are doing some really interesting things in the crypto space, and so I'm excited to hear a little bit about it. So maybe start us off with just high level what Prism is up to.
Prism is the group ownership platform. We make it really easy for groups of friends to come together and pool their resources and capital to own blue chip assets. And we're enabling this really through NFTs and DAOs, which are technologies enabled by crypto that I'm really excited to get into later in this podcast.
What's the definition of a blue chip asset?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So how I would define it is by thinking about the assets that the 1% almost have exclusive access to. So I was an investment advisor at Citi where I advised really the richest of the rich get richer. And when we were doing this, we oftentimes recommended them an asset allocation that looks very, very different from the 60-40 portfolio that the rest of us are recommended. They had this little sleeve in there called alternative investments, which may look like venture capital deals, private equity deals, art, collectibles, rare Ferraris that fundamentally the 99% don't have a clue about, and they just don't have access to for a variety of reasons, which could be antiquated accredited investor laws and just the initial capital base to acquire some of these assets.
So then with Prism, assuming I had a bunch of people that all wanted to pool money for something, what might be something we would purchase?
Yeah, so let's walk through an IRL example that you could do today without Prism, and so you can kind of understand what before and after looks like with Prism. So imagine that you are an ex-hotel operator, your friend is a muralist, another friend has a little bit of extra capital, and together you guys come together to pull together your resources and capital to buy this rundown hotel in your neighborhood. You did this by forming an LLC, perhaps, getting that LLC a business bank account. That whole process may have taken you weeks, if not months. And then you finally pull together the capital, purchase this hotel, you turn it around, and everyone makes a lot of money. And hopefully the larger community gets to experience a newfound kind of gem in their neighborhood. So what Prism allows you to do is arm this group of friends with these tools to really easily create this business bank account and LLC structure and coordinate capital in a few minutes rather than in weeks and months. Because this fundamental technology is so scalable, it can really expand to more sci-fi use cases. Imagine if your local basketball team, if they were owned by billionaires, they were owned by the community. So that kind of scale and capital coordination is enabled by DAOs, which you just fundamentally can't get to with LLCs and business bank accounts.
So for those of us in the world that aren't as familiar with what a DAO is or an NFT, can you explain what those terms mean?
Yeah, so DAOs and NFTs are two technologies that are enabled by Ethereum. And I'm happy to give a little primer on Ethereum if that helps too.
That would be great.
Okay, so should we start there?
Sure.
Okay, so Ethereum is really a programmable computer that instead of the back end, the computing power and really like the code that enables applications to run on servers like that are hosted by AWS or Google Cloud, they're run on servers that are hosted by communities all over the world. This enables a really distributed computing platform. It enables a platform that is much more user-centric and user-owned, and allows for a complete reimagination of the internet away from centralized powers like Google, Amazon, Facebook, to putting the power in the hands of average people. So that's really what Ethereum is. The only thing you need to understand and think about it is it's just really a computing platform, and you can develop new kinds of applications on it that are much more user-owned and user-centric. One of these applications or infrastructure level protocols, as they call it, are DAOs. Another one is NFTs. Let's start with NFTs. What NFTs are, it's just really a digital file format that makes it really, really clear who owns what. Has native property rights is kind of like the industry speak for it. You can upload many things to an NFT. Right now, it's a bit of a toy. People actually just upload, art, different collectibles. People are launching profile pic projects that you may have heard of, like CryptoPunks and Bored Apes. So it's a bit skeuomorphic in its current form, but fundamentally just a file format, much like JPEGs and MP3s, but very clear who owns what. What DAOs are is what it stands for is actually decentralized autonomous organization, but in its current state, it's neither decentralized or autonomous. So it's really just an internet organization is all you need to is how you need to frame it in your head. It's just a new kind of LLC that instead of filing paperwork with your local or state government, you're filing paperwork directly with Ethereum. And anyone can start a company with a few clicks of a button. This company that you start comes with its own bank account. And it's really, really easy for this DAO to coordinate capital all across the world. So strangers anywhere in the world that just have an internet connection can pull together their funds, vote on what they want to do with those funds, and coordinate in a matter of seconds, not a matter of months like LLCs and business bank accounts.
Thank you for that. That's super, super clear. And it sounds like the work that Prism's up to, and as well as other companies in this space, is having a pretty big impact in sort of leveling the playing field as it pertains to power and how it's used on the internet and people's information and privacy and data, as well as sort of more effectively democratizing capital and who has access to it. Is that right?
I couldn't have said it better than that. I would say the nuance right now is, while that technology will enable a fair redistribution of power, capital, and hence financial freedom, right now there's a new wave 1% that has kind of popped up in the Ethereum ecosystem that have grabbed a lot of capital and power. These are the early movers in Ethereum, a lot of folks that kind of participated in the early crowd sale that got in very early, that may have just been a kid with $20 that threw in an investment, and now that $20 could be worth $200 million. And it's also the VCs that are funding this movement that definitely have an inordinate amount of power in this ecosystem. So fundamentally, technology much more fair and distributed. Right now, the distribution isn't quite there yet, but I think we'll get there in the next couple of decades.
Great. And I want to talk a little bit about your hunches on how that could happen. But first, I want to know a little bit more about why do you care about all this? Why does this matter to you in terms of sort of shifting the tide to something more fair and equitable?
It's definitely through a couple personal experiences I've had. I am an immigrant from India that was brought here by my dad, my mom, and my sister also came along with us. But my dad came here really to pursue the original internet. He was actually kind of a rocket scientist. He worked for the Indian Space Research Organization and had this insight that the internet was going to be very, very massive, and took this kind of leap of faith by committing his whole career to suddenly go from an electrical engineer to learn programming and dedicate his nights and weekends to picking up this technology. So he moved out here in 1997 and he brought us here in 1999. And, it's kind of like a rising tide lifts all boats kind of scenario where he's a smart guy, but he was just at the right place at the right time and rode this wave of the initial internet. While we were growing up, it became very, very clear to me that if you want to instill change in the world, it starts with accumulating some sort of wealth and capital. And growing up in Silicon Valley, it was very clear that the stories of the Zuckerbergs and the Google founders, it was all left and right. So entrepreneurship was one model, and really just like making your capital work for you could be another model. But that didn't click to me until I ended up at Citi several years later and understood the level at which the 1% are able to multiply their wealth. A lot of the 1% they either accumulated that initial capital base through entrepreneurship, or they had inherited a sum of wealth. But the amount of compounding returns that you can get from that initial capital base to go from tens of millions of dollars, $100 million is just wild. And I was able to juxtapose this with my background as an immigrant from India and returning to India and seeing really what like the real 99% get in terms of financial services. So this was all just very unfair to me. And through all these experiences, I was always philosophically seeking some sort of solution, not only for myself, but hopefully for the whole world. And when I discovered crypto in 2016, it very much clicked for me that this could be the beginning of that paradigm shift. And I kind of went all in since.
Amazing. And thank you. Thank you for caring and for, calling it how it is, right? So obviously this shift started off with its pure intentions and form, and as things happen, right, you wind up with a new elite. And so in terms of how you feel like Prism and maybe the rest of the industry can sort of move back to that more ideal state that you were describing for many of the folks in the world who are not not in the same sort of 1% of the 1%.
So how do we get from where we're at to this vision of the world?
Yeah, what has to shift or what has to evolve, and what's Prism's role in it, do you think?
Yeah, so I think to get there, there's two fundamental problems that need to be solved. Just to walk through like a real world example of how you could accumulate it like a blue chip asset. Maybe you want to invest in Andreessen Horowitz's new fund, right? They have a history, a track record of making a substantial amount of returns for the 1%, but they only accept check sizes of a minimum of $250,000, and it's limited to accredited investors, right? So because of those hurdles in place, there's really just a profile, a limited pool of people that can access that. I think over the next decade, the regulatory environment will shift quite a bit and have kind of a reimagination of these accredited investor standards, because they're really just meant to protect investors from scams and things like that. So there could be alternative ways of getting that accredited investor status. And there's some progress that's been made already. You can actually just go and teach yourself the Series 66 curriculum, take this examination to become kind of a professional investment advisor on paper and get there. So that progress needs to be made with the regulatory environment. And I think enabling technology to do that will be really, really massive. And I can dive a little bit deeper into that. Then there's the initial check size problem, right? You need this initial capital base to purchase some of these assets. It could be this hotel you want to buy with your friends or your community, or this accredited investor deal you want to participate in. This is kind of where Prism comes into play. We allow for really easy pooling of capital, so that you can kind of neutralize this initial and upfront investment by pooling capital with friends. And maybe your friends aren't rich enough to even get you there. So maybe you pull capital with strangers or even your community to do that. And DAOs at large, and tokens even, I can get into the details here, are kind of this conduit of trust so that you can pull money comfortably with strangers on the internet.
Yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more about, you take a group of people who don't know each other and are all throwing money into this pot. So how does it turn out well for everybody?
It really, really comes down to what they call the trustless nature of Ethereum. Since all of these different community-run AWS nodes, if you will, right, are in sync with each other, and that's just kind of fundamentally how the technology works. And they come to what they call consensus when different events happen in the Ethereum ecosystem. You're able to, it enables this format where you don't need to trust someone to interact with them. You're actually just trusting the technology itself, and it's been completely foolproof so far. There's been no transaction or scam in the Bitcoin universe that was done at the Bitcoin node level, right? Yes, there's scams that are done by people, but the computing works, and you can very easily trust a stranger due to this technology. Because of that, it enables this universe where you actually can trust another stranger. And then it comes down to kind of the human element and what kind of strangers you want to have this activity and coordinate this activity with. And this is actually gets into one other kind of feature of this system, is that it's very open and transparent. So Aaron, if you have a history of contributing to these projects and picking the best ones, and maybe even like participating in some of these projects where you bought a basketball team with your community and you've actually instilled change there, and you deserve to be a part of this community. You're not just a passive capital contributor. Your record of doing that is all just on chain, which means you can easily curate this data and build this kind of identity and reputation around what you've already done, right? So strangers can come together to accomplish this new mission, and maybe like the leader behind this mission can set different hurdles. Like, we're not gonna accept completely new profiles. We want people that have done this kind of in the past, right? So tokens, the trustless kind of nature of the technology, and these kind of abstractions on the technology like identity and on-chain reputation will get us to this place ultimately where you can have interactions with strangers.
That is so helpful. And again, I'm learning a lot in this conversation, as I think some of the listeners will be too. And so how, if I am me, right? So if I decide tomorrow I want to be a part of what Prism is up to, how do I get into the mix with you guys?
Yeah. So right now, what Prism allows you to do is form this simple DAO structure and collect NFTs as a team, right? So you need to show up with a team. So first of all, you need to kind of have a group of friends, and oftentimes this user persona that we go after is this iMessage chat where you and your friends, you might be talking fantasy football, but you're also talking stocks in the same group chat. That intimate group of friends that runs on social contracts, not paper contracts, you're the perfect user to try Prism. So you show up with your squad, and then you need to decide which NFTs you want to collect. Right now, NFTs are in this skeuomorphic kind of place where mostly it's it's art and collectibles that are used to that are utilizing this technology. So you want to probably have a sense of which one you want to purchase.
Let me jump in there real quick. What was that word you
Okay.
used? Did you say qmorphic?
Skeuomorphic.
Qmorphic. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's this notion that what it actually means is when you may be using a new technology, you might be bootstrapping the old technologies into this new technology. So one example could be the early iterations of like your Windows Media Player, for instance. They had knobs that or volume knobs that actually looked like the volume knobs that you might see on your your record player or your stereo at home. That is a skeuomorphic design where this is a whole different paradigm, whole different design standard, right? But you're borrowing old design paradigms from an old standard that you're used to and bringing it into this new technology. And I think that's kind of where NFTs are at right now.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, I don't know the actual dictionary definition, but hopefully that example clarified things.
For sure. No, and I would thank you too, because all of these sort of real life examples or analogies it's actually quite helpful in understanding something brand new. So thank you. So I think where we left off was, a group of a squad of friends that we interact on a sort of social contract, et cetera. So pick it up from there if you don't mind.
Yep. So you've brought you and your friends to Prism. We've spun up this really simple DAO in the background. So now you have the ability to pull together capital and vote on what you want to do with that capital. Then you need to actually deposit the funds into the platform. So you might be depositing that in from your Coinbase account, or perhaps you're a little bit more crypto native and you have an Ethereum wallet where you store your wealth and you truly own it. You deposit those assets, your friends do the same, and then it's about which NFT you want to purchase. There's several different NFT marketplaces in the world right now. For instance, Tom Brady just started one. The ex-founder of Twitch, Justin Connie, just started one. But the most popular one right now is called OpenSea. It's founded by a good friend of mine named Devin Finzer and Alex, his partner. So they literally have a monopoly basically in the NFT marketplace ecosystem. So you probably are selecting an NFT from there. And we have an interface that makes it really easy to do that. You select the NFT, you vote on as a team if you want to actually purchase that or not. And then boom, with the click of a button, that vote is converted into an actual transfer of funds to the OpenSea contract, which ends up picking up the NFT you wanted to purchase off their marketplace.
Fantastic. So, and forgive me if I'm making you re-explain anything. So if I've got my group of folk, how do we get in touch? Is it simply we contact you over email? Do we get on the website? Like where does the actual rubber hit the road in terms of getting started?
Yeah. So we are live in a early access kind of closed state right now. And I'll tell you my intention behind that. So you would get in touch with the Prism team. We are on Twitter. We're on Discord. You can also email me. I'm happy to share my contact information. We would curate you and make sure you are a good fit for our early community. We are actually trying to build this community of communities in a sense, right? Or where we want these early users to start interacting with each other and form net new groups that have maybe even bigger ambitions. So you would go through an onboarding call with us, make sure you're qualified, and then boom, we'd give you access to the platform. We actually do this in a really crypto native way by printing you an NFT, which becomes your password, if you will, to unlock the platform.
Great. And yes, I would love to be able to share your contact information. We'll put it in the verbiage that goes along with the podcast. And in terms of the website address, what is that?
So it's prysm.xyz. prysm.xyz. That's where we live. We hang out on Twitter a lot. You can follow us at prism_xyz, prysm_xyz. We also have a Discord community, same name, and you can always email me at thomas@prysm.xyz, and that's Thomas with an H.
Fantastic. Well, Thomas, I so appreciate you spending some time with me today and being so clear on all the work that Prism is up to, and then also sort of painting the picture for these other landscapes that are not as familiar to a lot of us. So all the best with the work that you guys are up to, and looking forward to chatting with you again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Aaron. And quick shout out to you as well. I definitely couldn't have gotten to this stage where I'm using analogies and storytelling in a way if it weren't for all the time we spent together late last year.
My pleasure, and it's great to see what you've done with it. So all the best, and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks so much, Aaron.
Take care.
Bye.
The Trailbreaker podcast is created by Aaron Feinberg with production support provided by Michael Morey. More interviews and videos can be found at aaronfeinberg.com.